This is, it's a national socialist problem in Wales. It isn't a new thing, and it is something that is going to trickle over into England. Yeah. And this is something that we've been trying to warn about. I know every time we've come up here, we've done segments on Wales, and we do that to try and highlight what you've got coming your way with a Labour government. Because Mark Drakeford was told by Keir Starmer that he is the ideal way of running the country. All you got to do is model yourself off Mark Drakeford. You know, you guys probably know what he's been up to anyway, with, you know, the toughest lockdowns, what he did the Christmas. He shut all the shops on the night, so everybody went rushed out. There's lots of things that Mark Drakeford's done.
He wanted to put a curfew on all men.
Yeah. And that was because of the Sarah Everard.
After 6 o'clock.
Yeah, because it was a Green Party Lord, wasn't it, that mentioned it in the House of Lords, and then he actually went ahead and...
He actually thought it would be a good idea, you know, which is unbelievable, because, you know, the guy who was doing it was a cop anyway.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
so
he would be immune to a curfew anyway, because if there was a curfew where the police couldn't go out, well, it'd be great for criminals, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. But this is something that we're seeing more and more now, and it is what they say in a style of protest. So give a little bit of a background. Stan was in a hustings. You were actually on the panel of the hustings as a candidate, and you were basically sat in front of, so they strategically sit you, and as you can imagine, Stan...
I was on the far right.
He was on the far right. And directly in front, which theirs would be the far left, was Hope Nor Hate, or Hate Nor Hope. And they sat them deliberately in front of Stan. So he was getting the heckles all night, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But the hustings itself, this was like no other hustings I've ever seen or known ever, because it's in the area of the Stradey Park Hotel. Now, some of you viewers may remember when we came up before, we spoke about the victory of the Stradey Park Hotel over the Home Office, where they camped out for over 100 days, 24 hours a day protesting, and the Home Office pulled out. So it's a politically charged atmosphere and area then, isn't it?
Yeah, and the lefty vicar and also the compere was Hate Not Hope. So you've got the Chamber of Commerce was supposed to be apolitical. It's run by a Labour politician. So you've got this atmosphere, and in front of me I had a trans and the wife or the husband, whichever, there, and because I have spoke out about sex education in schools in Wales from 3 years of age, and that Nia Griffiths has been introduced by a trans on a stage in front of children.
Yeah.
So and I think it's vile, if I'm being perfectly blunt.
Yeah.
And so that's the setup that they thought they'd have me on.
Yeah, and they had to do that because at the Stradey Park Hotel, all of the politicians, all levels of government, from councillors to Senedd members to MPs, they all, Conservatives, Plaid Cymru and Labour, all turned their back on the protesters. The Conservative candidate, you know, he said congratulations to everybody who was in the hustings, which I thought was a bit rich, because he could have come along if he wanted to, but he didn't. But they were all ordered not to go, not to show support. So the people in the area aren't happy with the politicians, so they had to control it.
More than that, Dan, there were people there who were told, lost business, basically. They lost business because their vehicles were seen at that Stradey Park Hotel, and also people in the pictures that were beamed out, individuals were told, you cannot be there. And these were nurses, these were council employees. So not only do they try and control your life in work, but also your livelihood is controlled as well. And that explains why we go up to so many people and they say, I can't speak to you because I work for the council.
Yeah, but we fully support you.
Those are the other words. Or they'll tell us a story, but they won't come on camera, which is fine because it gives us more background. But it just shows how evil and pervasive
scared people are as well.
These socialists are in Wales.
Yeah. So what they want to do, and what they always try and do in Wales, you've got the state-sponsored media like Wales Online, or Tales Online we call them, and Nation Cymru, and they get their funding direct from Welsh government. You know, Nation Cymru, we did a deep dive on them, and they're getting like £80,000 over the next 4 years of government funding. So they're going to print the Labour mantra, aren't they? They're not going to bite the hands feeding them, quite literally. So they need to spin the narrative. And what happened is this headline came out. We don't need to really scroll through it all, but the private security brought in to police general election hustings in Llanelli amid politically charged climate. Now, this is basically, the way this article reads then throughout is how there were so many people there protesting against it. Obviously, they're all far right. People protesting for the first time were far right. So they needed to paint the picture that this is going to be a dangerous hustings. We need private security because of the far right. However, we've got a lot of friends actually in the Labour Council, Labour councillors, for example, and other councillors who will give us information and tell us things that are going on. And what we heard and what we were told is that the private security was more concerned with the far left, because what we're seeing now is their new habits of throwing things at or over candidates they don't like. And Stan features regularly on the local Hate Not Hope pages and the Nation Scumry and the Wales Onlines, because they like the constant reporting, it happens all the time to you, doesn't it? So there was concerns that the candidates weren't going to be safe to yourself, and there's a Reform candidate, Gareth Beer, as well. Yeah. And they were concerned how the left behave, and that was going to be coming onto their doors. And that's what that was the genuine.
Oh, sorry.
So basically, that's the narrative they wanted to paint. The troubles are going to be with the far right. However, it was with the far left. Now, because the local councillors who were running it, Nia Griffiths is the local MP. She's there for Labour, and then you've got Plaid Cymru who run the council. So it was very rigid, the rules of this hustings. You were given 3 questions, albeit you had the wrong question. So they give him 3 different questions, and all the other candidates had the other one. So on the day, I saw your face, because literally on that day before, we were sitting down having a beer, weren't we? And we were going through the questions. And as soon as they asked the first question, I knew, I was like, they've switched them. That he hasn't mentioned this question, and we've seen your email. So, but also you weren't allowed to directly question candidates. Now, hustings is an opportunity for the general public, the constituents, to ask questions of the politicians or the would-be politicians in front of them if they were to be elected. But that was totally banned.
But now, surely that undermines the whole point of the event in the first place, because otherwise they may as well just listen to party political broadcasts and read the manifesto rather than... Yeah.
Well, we were calling it a high-no, hustings in name only, because that's absolutely what it was. Yeah. So this isn't... Well, it is kind of, because it shows what Stan's approach was to this. And this was Stan's first 2 minutes. And what happened is, because they weren't allowed to ask questions, Stan had been round the constituency already and got a load of questions. And your 2-minute introduction, you used to ask them questions and put it to the politicians. But if we play this, I'll give you an idea of what it's about. Should there be some?
Oh, there should be some audio there.
Ladies and gentlemen,
there we go.
My name's Stan Robinson. I'm standing for United Kingdom Independence Party here in Llanelli. My interest here is also with the Voice of Wales. I'm a co-presenter of that, and the reason why I'm wearing my saucepan badge tonight. The questions that aren't being allowed to be asked is because this is a rigged Chamber of Commerce meeting, and these are the questions that Daphne, Sue and Derek would like to have asked if they could have done. Why are they, in their 70s and 80s, being labelled far-right extremists for caring for their grandchildren when they were protesting outside of the Stradey Park Hotel? It is an absolute scandal. Rainer from Carway, a father of 5, is homeschooling, and the reason for that is because Wales is absolutely the bottom of the class when it comes to kids, and also they don't care about the school like Hillgoffer or any other one, because they care more about net zero, and that's the problem. They've got the budget, and yet they choose to spend it on net zero stuff. It is an absolute scandal, whilst people are taking their kids out because of the indoctrination, and you're part of that indoctrination, Nia, because you go in and you stand there with trans. There is no picking another candidates. I'm being rude. I mentioned that earlier.
So she's saying you're not allowed to attack the candidates.
In a hustings, it is generally that you have general questions from members of the public, not a select few. And I'm sorry, Reverend, but it's my 2 minutes, not your 2 minutes. So thank you very much. Chloe from Llanelli wants to know why she she's got 3 children, she can't be housed she's got a substandard house, and yet there are others who get off on a dinghy and they get housed within Carmarthenshire. It is not right, and it's time to stop it. Charity begins at home, and to give you a bit of biblical, do the little things. Well, we're sick of not having the little things done in this town, and that's why a city status will never be correct until you get the little things right and tidy this town up. Make Llanelli great again.
So that's that.
That's great stuff, by the way.
And, you know, you had the most, it was a little bit of a funny story, but when this article came out, you just saw there, it said this, you know, at the moment there was 20 tickets available for the audience to buy because the Labour Party stole most of them and then they allowed 20 to go on sale. When we went on, there was 18 left, so we bought them all and obviously filled the room. So, and you had a really great time. And this is why that reverend there, that lady in black, every time you spoke, they'd be harking in and interrupting basically. But that was and I wanted to put that in because it shows your energy. So it shows how much that type of thing being said in front of Hope Not Hate or Hate Not Hope is going to rile them up a little bit, you know, and it's pretty standard stuff. It's not wrong at all. But then the next thing happened, which is where we get onto the segment heading with the National Socialist problem. Now, this is a Labour councillor. His name is Gary Jones.
Yep.
And we'll play the video and then you can see for yourselves.
Napoleon said that Britain is a nation of shopkeepers, and that's where we should start. The small businesses, get them on their feet. If it means that we have free parking in town, that's what we do. We've got to get the small businesses up and running. We've got to get the market traders back trading in Llanelli. Not listen to you.
So that's 4. So he didn't just do it once, 4 times.
You should ask him to leave. He will be
And that came from the far left-hand side of the room, didn't it? Which is where the left wingers were sitting.
Just watch him now. He puts a kiss. So he's not even regretting. There you go.
Did they really say that the 5 17-year-olds were far right extremists?
Yes. Yeah, everybody that went there. And, you know, it gets worse than that. I was toying with the 2 ideas because now we've got this guy's ex-EDL. He now works with Prevent and he's there to, you know, get involved. And they're going into local colleges giving a speech about how the far right recruit people. And if your parents or brothers are becoming part of the far right, take a form and you can have a chat with us anonymously. So they're proactively going into schools.
You can dob in your own parent.
Your own parents.
It's a bit like the killing fields in Vietnam, where they the state was the parents were crossed out, and the state was the parents, and we're one step off that in Wales. That's how bad and pernicious the Welsh are now. The Welsh socialists are.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, you know, you can see that didn't go down well at all with the people in the audience. Even some on the left were saying that's out of order. You shouldn't be doing that. And, you know, hats off to them because normally they put their head in the sand like Nia Griffiths did. You know, he campaigns for her and she sat there saying nothing. But obviously we put this all over social media and we were expecting an actual response from the Labour Party.
Yeah.
However, we don't need to go through these articles. Just wants to show you the headlines. Because we had reported it online, the state-sponsored media then had to, but they come out in support. So they basically speak to him, try and get his version of events. They say that it was in protest. You know, he didn't mean it. He regrets it and all this. So they want to get that out straight away. However, you can see by the video, you know, he didn't do it once and then think, oh no, he did it 4 times. Blew a kiss on the way out as well. So there was no remorse.
And
his finger under his nose while he was doing it. You can't see it in that one, but they were reports from people who were around him. So Nation Cymru come up with this one. And then if you go on to the next one, it's Wales Online. Again, this, you know, it says it's written by a different person. This is by Abby, whatever. I can't read it from here. But it's word for word, more or less, isn't it?
Yeah, it's word for word. And what they're saying is, what they're making it out to be is, I should be apologetic.
Yeah.
Because they are doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should be the one that has, you know, Hess whip my own back and ring a bell and say unclean intellectually. It's him and the leadership in Labour.
Yeah.
Not one of them have come out and said this is appalling. You know, we've seen attacks on MPs, we've seen attacks on candidates. Nigel Farage has been milkshaked, etc., etc. And the Labour Party are the first to say, "Oh, we need a
kinder, gentler
politics."
Yeah.
Except when it comes to people on the right.
Yeah, because it's particularly significant. It doesn't seem, that important. You could sort of brush it off, but the sort of subtext of it is that he's signalling that you have National Socialist views, which you don't have, obviously, and that would be a pretext for people on the left or even people on the right as well to be violent towards you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, the whole thing. He's fascinated with Franco. I wrote a piece 2 years ago, or more than 2 years ago, about Franco and the fact that because he remained neutral, it saved Gibraltar, and therefore we wouldn't have won if Gibraltar had been conquered. That's for sure. The Germans would have kept Greece, Malta, Cyprus, the oil fields, the whole of the North Africa, and we would have lost. We would have lost absolutely. And so the pretext of the essay was my enemy's enemy is my friend, and that was it. And since then, this has been a campaign that he's run.
Yeah.
But this makes zero sense. If they took an issue with, because you could say that if the World War II had never happened, the British Empire wouldn't have the fate it did have. That doesn't mean that the person who started it was a friend of the British Empire.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So just absolute total fallacy.
Yeah. And this isn't an isolated incident. There's another one that this is recent. This is all within this election campaign, by the way. And if you play this video, this is a guy in Sketty,
which is in Swansea.
She did that.
Excuse me. Yeah. Goodbye. You're on camera. Yeah. Goodbye.
So obviously he's trying to change it now.
Goodbye. Don't knock again. All right. Put you down as against.
All right, I'll put you down as a game.
So the pretext of this is he'd said, no, I don't want your leaflet. So then he turned around and started doing the Hitler salute again
to his face on his doorstep. And that, to me, like we go door knocking when in your campaign and stuff like that. And if someone says, no, I'm all right, thank you, we say, no problem, have a lovely day. But that is their response. And this is the people, this is the kind of gentler politician that the Labour Party is preaching, because again, nothing has happened to this guy. But lastly, because I know we're pushing the time here, there is an example of what has happened. This will go back to 2017. However, Nazi salute Plymouth councillor Johnny Morris suspended.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. And they actually had, the Devon and Cornwall police actually were investigating it as public order. The Labour Party, no nonsense, got rid of him straight away. This is back in 2017. And does this show how times change, or does this show what Welsh Labour is like and how extreme it is compared to what you've seen here in England?
Yep.
Is it a taste of what you've got to come? And, my opinion is, you do something like this in a hustings where you've got constituents, your own constituents, where some are veterans, some have lost people in the war, and you do something like that. It should be instant, no messing around.
Some people in that audience could be Jewish.
Yeah.
He did not know.
Exactly.
When he did that vile act.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm wrong. Is this an offence that should make you get you suspended? Should the police be involved? Something like this? I believe so.
Yeah.
And that's no matter which side of politics it comes from. If anybody's prepared to do something like that in public, then they should be dealt with. But the Labour Party in Wales just rushed to the defence of the councillor.
A politician, certainly.
Yeah.
A politician, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where it's very difficult to draw a line between free expression. I get my middle name from someone who died in World War II fighting against the Germans. So I'm certainly no apologist, but at the same time, if it's done in satire, I can see circumstances where it could be acceptable. But at the same time, I agree that it is inappropriate for politicians to do it, particularly in Britain, when there are people who have lost family members. It's just insensitive and needless and sensationalist, and it's signalling to certain people that perhaps you should target this person.
Yeah, absolutely. We just had D-Day, and we've seen the amount of men that are left taking that trip that's sailing over. It's a handful now, isn't it? I think it's 5 or 6 maybe. And they are still. We've still got people in living memory, or that are living now that remember these things, and to have councillors doing this. Now, my argument is when people have said, "Oh, he was joking," and it's like, well, let's judge him by his standards. What would he want to happen if Stan had done that? And he'd be in the gulag. Simple as. I
mean, my dad's brother died at Arnhem. So I had a grandfather I never knew. He was killed, and in the First World War, although it was the Kaiser then. We lost family members there. So it is still raw, and for politicians to do that is it's completely unacceptable.
Yeah,
there's a time and a place.
So that's pretty much it on the rise of the National Socialists in Wales.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. This is a clip from a broader podcast called the Podcast of the Lotus Eaters. It's live 1 p.m. every day UK time, Monday to Friday. And if you want to support us, you can sign up for £5 a month, help us keep the lights on, because of course we're demonetised here, and go and watch Lads Hour. Lads Hour is one of my favourite shows because it's basically, and I guess there's no easy way to describe it, than calling it The View, but for men. We talk about whatever we want, but from an unabashedly masculine perspective, and we have a great time doing it. So come over and watch that.